This podcast is part of the Game and Entertainment Network. Visit tgenetwork.net to find the latest episodes from all our shows.
You're listening to Beyond Boss Fights, gaming, technology, movies, and more. Now, here's your host, Braxwolf.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Beyond Boss Fights, episode 28. Today we're going to be talking about July of 2016, the month that changed video gaming forever, with the release of Pokemon Go. But before we get to that, I've got actually a couple other things I want to go over. I wasn't going to put out this episode this month. I was actually planning to do a full-blown interview episode this month, but I couldn't get my guests lined up in time. So hopefully in August we'll have a interview-based podcast. But I've actually got a lot to talk about. There's a ton of stuff that went on this past week, at least in my video gaming life. So I'm going to go over some of that. First of all, I finished 2 games this past week. One of them was Tomb Raider. I think it was 2014 it came out? Yeah, 2014, the rebooted Tomb Raider game. And I'd heard a lot of good word of mouth about this game. In fact, when it went on sale a couple years ago, it must have been the first Christmas that it went on the Steam sale, I picked it up for like $9 or $10. And what I was going to do was play it during my Extra Life stream a couple years back, but I never got around to it. I got pretty deep into playing Arcade for that stream and never really got out of it. So Tomb Raider sat on my hard drive for a while, then I deleted it, and then I decided to reinstall it. And in my quest to kind of start getting through some of my story-based games, I started it up here again a couple weeks ago. And boy, I was blown away. This game kind of hooks you in from the beginning. It's very, very cinematic, which I like. And there's a lot of seamless kind of, they're not really cuts. Yeah, I guess they are cutscenes, but they're very seamlessly integrated into your gameplay. Kind of all of a, you're walking along and all of a sudden the camera kind of pans a certain way, and it feels like a cinematographer has actually planned for that to happen. One of the first things that happens when you find out that you're on this island and you've survived and you're trying to figure out what's going on is you kind of come out of this tomb-like cave thing, whatever, into the sunlight, and the camera kind of pans back and shows you all of these wrecked airplanes and ships and stuff on the island. And that's when you realize that it's not just your boat that has crashed and been marooned on this island. So yeah, just really cool feel, great music, easy gameplay. I wouldn't say easy gameplay. I guess that's not true, but easy to pick up the mechanics of the gameplay. There's a lot of different aspects to the game. It's an action game. There's action combat in it. Different weapons that you can upgrade, pick up, salvage to upgrade. And of course, the tombs themselves are kind of like puzzles. There's no enemies to fight in those tombs typically, but there is a lot of thinking to be done to see how you can get to the end chest that has, a great amount of treasure in it or whatever. And I really like the tomb aspect, although unfortunately, since I was kind of trying to power through this game, I only did a couple of the extra tombs, and I'll probably go back and see if I can figure out some of the more advanced ones at a later time. But would highly recommend, especially since this game's a couple years old and you can pick it up for a pretty decent price, would highly recommend going through this if you enjoy action, story, and puzzle-based games, because it really has nice elements of all three. It isn't super deep in any of those 3 areas, but it has a nice level of depth for each one. So you don't have to get super into it, and it's not super complex. You can kind of jump in and figure it out pretty easily. Second thing was I finished the Fallout 4 main story, and I was actually a little bit surprised that I had finished it, because I had kind of expected... Okay, so let me back up a little bit. So a while ago, I was trying to get all of the companions to be kind of at full affinity with me so that I could get their perks and stuff. And I got stuck with Dance, because apparently with Paladin Dance, there's a specific quest line that you have to run before he can actually max out affinity with you. And as I looked this up online, everything seemed to indicate that it was part of the main story. If you just kept going, you would run into this quest, and you'd be able to eventually complete that and complete the max level of affinity with Paladin Dance. So I never ran into this, though. I continued down the storyline, And I got to the end and I thought, I never hit that. So I don't know if they meant if you've got to continue down the Brotherhood of Steel storyline, or now am I stuck that I can never max out Paladin Dance's affinity? I don't know exactly what went on there, but I was being very careful to try and kind of stay in good graces with all the factions long enough to experience as much of the content as possible. And somewhere along the line, I overstepped one or the other and missed my opportunity to go down that quest line. The second thing, very similar, there may be a few spoilers ahead here for Fallout 4, so skip ahead a few minutes if you don't want to know that, but I think at this point, probably most people don't care. When I decided to build the teleporter to get into the Institute for the first time, I did that with the Minutemen, and at some point I decided that I didn't want to stay with the Minutemen. I went and talked to, is it Desmonda? What's her name? The railroad leader. I went and talked to her, and she asked, "Are you sure you want to be with the railroad? Because you could join us, And I said, "Yeah, I want to join you guys." And she said, "Great. I'm glad that you're with us." So I assumed that I was with the railroad from that point on. But as I continued down the main quest line, it seemed like all of my main quest interactions were mostly with the Minutemen, even though I had told them or told the railroad that I was kind of switching sides. So I don't really know what happened there. And when I teleported into the Institute to do my last and final mission before I blew it up, it was with the Minutemen. There was no railroad involvement there at all. And I haven't been back to the railroad since I, pressed the button to nuke the place. But I'm a little confused as to where I went wrong there too, because it seems like I should have gone to the railroad to have them build a teleporter with me instead, if I wanted to use them as my main faction, I guess. Maybe you can't switch once you make that decision. But as expected, I was really impressed with the ending to Fallout 4. I thought it wrapped everything up nicely. Some people have talked about being depressed about that ending. Well, it's a nuclear war. I don't know what to tell you. I think that the theme of war never changes was well represented throughout the entirety of the game, and it started that way and it kind of ended that way. So it put a nice little bow on the main storyline as far as I was concerned. Pretty excited to start getting into the Far Harbor content next. So as soon as I get done with some of my other side projects, as far as some of my story-based games, I just started the Mass Effect series. So I'll be getting back to Fallout here soon. But anyway. Okay, so here's the big one. Here's the disruptor. I started playing Pokemon Go this week, and I explained this in a blog post, but in case you don't read the blog, I didn't have any plans to play this game. I had no reason to play this game. I don't really care about Pokemon that much. Read not at all. And I really don't like mobile games. I've tried a few and they're okay for a while, but they just don't. If I'm going to be sitting around playing a game, I'd rather be playing a full-fledged PC game, so I don't really do much with mobile gaming. However, a couple of things that I saw about Pokemon Go interested me quite a bit. The fact that it operates in a actual physical space, that the augmented reality piece of the game gets you up and moving around in the real world, was just fascinating to me. And I know this probably isn't a new concept, but let's face it, this is the first game that has really brought that into the mainstream. The other thing that interested me about Pokemon Go was the fact that not only are they trying to get you up and out in the world, but they're trying to get you moving in the world as much as possible. Like some of the mechanics that they've inserted into the game really encourage you to walk a lot or move a lot or cover a great distance. And so I, being kind of a person who tries to stay healthy and likes to stay on top of that as well as gaming, this was just a really appealing idea. But the thing that pushed me over the edge to actually downloading it, again, I explained this in my blog, was my friend Roger Edwards tweeted something about downloading it and trying it out. And I figured if Roger's going to do it, I'm going to do it. So I downloaded the game, I captured the little tutorial Pokemon guy, and I wandered down the street, caught a couple of the little first guys, found the Pokestop at the end of the road that gives you extra Pokeballs and things to throw. Came back and thought, okay, well, that's interesting. I'll have to take that out for a longer test run tomorrow or some other time. And I did the next day. Talked my wife into going into a long walk. And the weird thing was I had the game going, and we walked a long way. We walked all the way into town, which is probably, 2.5 miles, and then it was 2.5 miles back to our neighborhood. And by the end of the walk, I had recorded over 11,000 steps on my Fitbit and 5.3 miles on Runkeeper. So I covered that amount of distance and saw absolutely nothing on Pokemon Go. Not a single thing. Not a stop, not a monster, not a gym, nothing. So, I really kind of thought this is probably not going to be a very good thing for my area because maybe we're just too far away from any cities or large towns for this to be worth anybody's while to code these things into the game. So I was really kind of down on the game. I thought, I'm probably not going to be able to use it very much. And then I wrote a blog post about it, kind of a little snarky about it because of the fact that I couldn't use it for anything. And in the meantime, I started hearing people say what you need to do if you don't see anything is kill the app and start it again. Because apparently the game gets stuck in various ways. It doesn't always get stuck where it hangs, and it doesn't always get stuck where it crashes. Sometimes it gets stuck and it just doesn't show anything on the screen, like it's not communicating with the servers correctly or something. So once I figured that out, I took it out again in a neighboring town and started seeing things. So that indeed was the problem. They hadn't worked out all the bugs yet, and I still think they have a long way to go to resolve some of these server interaction problems that they have with the game. But at least there are some workarounds if you're patient enough. I took it out again tonight in my neighborhood and actually caught probably about 10 or 15 Pokemon. Only saw one Pokestop in about a 4-mile walk, so we're still pretty barren on that front. But at least I know that it works around my neighborhood now. And really, it's a fun little game. I've collected, 28 or so Pokemon, 28, 30 Pokemon. I don't really know any of them. In fact, if you're following me on Twitter, I'm tweeting out some of the Pokemon I've caught, and I'm naming them as I go. I got the piggy bank, and I've got the little plant dude, and rock fist, and all kinds of little names that make more sense to me than the ones they were given. I wanted to talk a little bit about what Pokemon Go means to gaming, because I've seen some people worrying about what does the success of this type of game mean for traditional video games that we're used to. I would like to think that there's enough room for this type of game and the traditional types of games as well. I mean, we saw Nintendo do this type of disruption before when they announced the Wii, and that was a huge success for the time. And it didn't unseat the traditional hardcore console games. There was really room in the market for both of those types of games. I think we're going to see that again with this type of mobile game. I don't think it's going to replace the hardcore MMOs and whatever else you're used to, the RPGs. I think that it's going to exist in parallel with those. So I don't really think there's anything to worry about there. If anything, it's exposing video games to a larger audience, which is always a good thing. Now, the question of is it a fad, that might be a little bit more interesting to talk about, because it certainly has all of the hallmarks of either a major disruptive style of game or something that will be big for 6 to 8 to 12 months and then will kind of drop off again, and then will become a punchline of future generations when they talk about the 2010 decade. It could go either way. Probably what's going to happen is there's going to be a whole bunch of copycats come next. Some of them, probably none of them, as good as Pokemon Go, or will at least not obtain the same success because they didn't hit at the right time. We've seen this before where sometimes something comes along that's better, or something was around before that's better, but just wasn't out at the right time. Sometimes you hit the market too early, sometimes you hit the market too late. Pokemon Go seems to have hit the market right on the crest of that wave. Anyway, I don't know how long I'm going to play this game. It's fun to have open while I'm walking around. It's a huge battery drain on my phone. But if I'm going to be out walking anyway, it's kind of interesting. Unfortunately, I haven't got Mrs. Braxwolf to download and play it yet. So as we go out on our walks together, she's not exactly understanding when I have to stop and throw balls at a Charmander when she's trying to get a walk done in a certain amount of time. So maybe that's not going to last super long if I can't talk her into doing that. But it's fun for now, and it's really interesting to see what they've done with those particular game mechanics. Okay, yesterday Nintendo threw another curveball at us. They announced a mini NES. And there was just a little bit of conversation about this. I think people are still so enamored with the Pokemon Go game that a lot of people probably missed this, or maybe they just don't care because they weren't around when the NES was popular. I don't know. The NES was the first console that I bought for myself. I've talked a little bit before about starting my gaming on the Atari 2600. I played games on friends' Commodore 64s. I had an Apple IIc at home. But the first console that I actually saved up my money for, and I actually went out and got a house-sitting opportunity to save money for, was the original Nintendo Entertainment System. I'm thinking it was $99 at the time, which in 1986 or so was a lot of money for 11-year-old me. But luckily my parents had some friends who were going to be gone for a couple weeks, and they offered me about $100 to, get into their bike over to the house and water their plants and feed their animals. That's how I spent my money. I said, this is what I want. I saved up for it, and it was pretty cool. Now, the mini NES that is going to be released will cost $60, will come with 30 classic NES games installed. There will not be a cartridge slot, so those of you who like blowing on the cartridges, sorry, I don't know what to tell you. It will come with a controller, which is going to look exactly like the old original NES controller, although, it looks like the attachment plug-in is going to be different. It's going to have an HDMI port, and an extra controller is only going to be $10. So I'm thinking this is kind of a no-brainer for me, especially if it's going to come out right around Christmas time. Now, I've already kind of been given the side eye by Mrs. Brax, who says, you never play the Sega Genesis that we've got upstairs now, but, it's going to be Christmas time. Maybe I'll soften her up by then. Some of the highlights of the games that are going to be included: Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, and 3, all very cool. Punch-Out, not Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, unfortunately. Apparently their license with Mike Tyson ran out, and they can no longer distribute that game under that name, so they took him out, and they got Mr. Dream or somebody in there. Legend of Zelda, and a few others that I remember thinking those are pretty cool, but I don't now remember what they are. At any rate, those few are probably enough for me to shell out the $60 for a Christmas-type present. And as somebody with at least a little bit of disposable income, it sounds like a pretty good buy to me. So I guess the last thing that happened in the last week, this has all been this week. Can you believe that? This has been an incredible week for gaming. The last thing that happened this week was Amazon Prime Day on Tuesday, where Amazon had sales for everybody with an Amazon Prime account. I will say the only thing I bought on Amazon Prime Day was something that wasn't on sale and I was thinking about buying anyway. I've always kind of wanted, for my DSLR camera, instead of the neck strap that it comes with, I always kind of wanted a hand strap that you can put on the side of the camera and just hold your hand onto it instead of having that big old strap that kind of gets tangled up in everything and is kind of a pain. So I went ahead and got one of those. It was only $6 and really happy with that purchase. The way it works is it goes on the neck strap on the top of the camera on the right hand side, and then the strap kind of goes around so you can put your hand between the camera and the strap. It'll hold it on, and then it screws onto the bottom where the tripod screw hole is, and then it's got another tripod screw hole on the bottom of that, on the bottom of the bracket for the strap itself. So you can still put the camera on a tripod or whatever you want to do with it with the strap on. You don't have to take it off. So it sounded like a pretty good idea for under $10, and I think I'm going to enjoy having that on my DSLR. Okay, I did want to mention that the featured TGen show of this month is Battle Bards with Sip Sill and the MMO Gamer Chick. They go over a certain style of music or a certain video game that has music in it, and they play specific selections from those themes, and then they explain why they picked those selections, what they like about them, what they don't like about them, and they talk back and forth about music within video games. So if you like that kind of thing, definitely check out Battle Bards. They are a member of the Gaming and Entertainment Network, tgenetwork.net. As far as feedback goes, I don't have any feedback to talk about. Hope everybody enjoyed the reunion episode that we did last month. I've kind of been re-listening to it in small chunks. It's a lot. Even for me, it's a lot to take in. So I don't begrudge anybody if they shut it off partway through and thought this is just too long. But it was still enjoyable for me to go through that and talk to some of my good friends again. If you have feedback for this or other episodes, you can send it to braxwolf@gmail.com and I'll read it on the podcast. Remember that Beyond Boss Fights is on iTunes and would appreciate your ratings and reviews. I heard that Bragg got a rating for Light the Beacons, and I'm a little bit jealous because I guess now that makes me the podcasting champion of not getting reviews for 2016. Beyond Boss Fights is also on Stitcher and Player FM, so add it to your playlists on those fine apps. As far as contact information goes, you can follow me on Twitter at Braxwolf, that's BRAXWOLF. You can email me at braxwolf@gmail.com. You can follow me on Facebook or YouTube or a Nook, or you can visit my blog at braxwolf.com. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you next time.